only child, they were happy to have me along, and I used to go down to Sterling, which your mom knows, Sydney. We'd go down to Sterling, to Granny's farm. So I was lucky in that I had that kind of family, and to this day, June's grandson still sends me flowers every Christmas because he knew that I really appreciated June's mother.
From Sterling.
From Sterling, and what the family did for us.
Where were they in Sterling?
Pardon?
Where in Sterling?
The mother, June, passed away and Gladys passed away, but the grandson lives in Sterling still, Brian Akers, but the Armstrong was the first name, June Armstrong. And the Armstrong, Floyd had a construction company or something like that, I think. So the Armstrongs were there for years. And so that was sort of my upbringing, and that was my little bit of a family, because my mother, of course, had to work. And we were kind of on our own. It's when we turned out as good as we did. However, we had next door neighbors, the Olden family, and if we did anything wrong, believe me, my mother heard about it. So we had kind of
Extended family.
Extended family, yeah. Where Norm, he had like a slew of aunts and uncles and cousins, and I had no relatives, no aunts, uncles, grandparents, or anything. Just my mother and father.
My grandfather, Ben Johnson, big name, married
Sarah Boat.
Sarah Boat, we think was Canadian Indian. But they had five sons and six daughters, 11 children. So one of the daughters became my mother, so I had 5 uncles and 5 aunts.
Oh wow.
Right from day one, from Coldwater, Ontario, just north of Toronto. So all my relatives were up there. So we had relatives coming over our years.
Tell them the interesting man that used to camp at your grandpa's farm.
Oh yeah.
Stephen Leacock.
Stephen Leacock, the writer. He's written, at that time back then, he had already written 41 books. He was a Canadian humorist. Well, when we went to see him in that display up in Aurelia, that's what they showed us. Anyway, he used to come to my grandfather's farm, which is at Coldwater, on the Coldwater River between the 9th and 10th concession. And my grandfather had 400 acres that he worked, and this Stephen Leacock liked to fish. He liked to fish for speckled trout. So the speckled trout in the Coldwater River that ran all the way through my grandfather's farm was his fishing pole, and it got that there was a little bit thin on the fishing end of it, so he had a truckload of fish, like a tank truck come in, down and across the bridge that my grandfather had made, across the Coldwater River to the other side and back in, and I watched him dump 3,000 fingerling trout into the Coldwater River to boost the fishing in there because of Stephen Leacock. He had the money. He taught the boys up on Avenue Road.
Yeah, Upper Canada College.
Upper Canada College. He was a
teacher. What did he teach you? It wasn't anything academic.
Oh yeah. So anyway, when he was at the grandfather's farm, grandfather had 4 Clydesdale horses, so they had lots of horseshoes. So they remake them over to play horseshoes, and they used to play horseshoes, hours on end on my grandfather's farm, just outside the gates of the home. I gotta go up there and see if the homestead's still there.
Condense the story.
But anyway, So anyway, while they were playing, I'd be watching. I was about 11 or 12 years old, and he said, Stephen Leacock says, Norm, he says, you gotta learn to play horseshoes. I could hardly pick them up, never mind throw them. that far. So what did he do? He says, well, come up here. And he showed me how to hold the horseshoe to throw it, and it'll go 1 1/3 turns, and it should be on that pin. He says, now you stand 4 or 5 feet from the pin, and he says, hold it that way, put the lugs down so that it doesn't slide away, and throw it until it goes on the pin. So I do that 3 or 4 times. He said, now you stay right there until you never miss. Well, I stood there and I put him on. Then he moved me back a foot. Well, he did this gradually, and the next thing I know, I'm standing back just inside the men's toss for horseshoes and putting the horseshoes on. So he was very pleased that I'd learned. To this day, I still throw the same shoe, and my boys can't beat me.
No?
They throw flop.
You taught Brian, and Brian was in a horseshoe league in Mississauga.
But he won't throw my way.
Oh, didn't he?
No, he threw them, and they went this way with the open and closed. Okay. I threw it so that it went 1 turn, a quarter of a turn, and then and it was facing that way when it hit, stayed on the pin. Okay. So anyway, I tried to show them, I don't like that. They throw them their way. So, well, that's Stephen Laycock, and he was quite a nice gentleman. And he went ahead with his fishing and visiting my grandfather.
But we went up to that farm, and apparently the barn was one of the largest ones that were built
in the area,
and it's still standing. And our youngest son Andy said, will you take us up there and let them see where the farm is so they can, remember. And I think now it got so the family could have bought it when his Uncle Harry died, and
it got sold
that
off.
was really stupid. For about $150,000 for this huge farm.
It was $179,000. My Aunt Lois got. Okay. She moved to Barrie.
But anyway, and part of the farm was taken for the extension of the 400 going up north.
They expropriated
we didn't do it.
The north part.
It was kind of dumb. I think it's a sod. The people have a sod farm on it now.
Yeah, and the. Took the name away from me. Well, Don Galbraith. Galbraith, Mr. Galbraith was my Uncle Galbraith and Aunt Minnie that lived on the north side of the farm, just on the Moonstone Road. And they had a nice farm in there with part of the river through it. Along came Mr. Fielder, who was a buddy of mine, a transmission expert on Lakeshore and 27 Highway. He bought the farm from my uncle, and that's known as
the Bon Air Golf Course.
The Bon Air Golf Course, and it's still running now.
Yeah.
And Fielder now.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it?
You got a bug up there?
Yeah.
Where is it now?
It's just on the window.
I wish I could see a bug.
Where is it? Is it up high?
It's just
Oh,
on the
see.
window,
Okay.
yeah.
It looks like a little beetle.
Oh, how do they get inside?
Outside. You're a bit like
I
Tim
can't.
Hunt, Sydney.
See, I'm blessed. I
She's
can't
bad
see
at
any of
bugs.
that small stuff.
It's pretty big. So the other
You know
noise
what?
is okay?
If you,
The other noise is okay?
it can't eat much.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you.
Anyway, that's the part of my life. And the racing, or motorcycles turned into making me a race car driver. So I went down to Oswego, New York, and I picked up racing down in, actually I used to go to Fulton, New York all the time, just to visit our friends down that way. And Oswego, New York was in between, and I got to be racing cars down there. I got into the fast stuff, like Indy type cars. And when I got driving the Indy cars down there, I had two different Indy kits. The first one was a beautiful little red one, and I go from Oswego, New York, out to Sandusky, Ohio, every weekend, and race the two racetracks. Sandusky, Ohio was a real favorite track of mine, and I got to be well known out there too. So between the two of them, I did a lot of racing. And this little red first Indy car that I got, I was winning everything, but I was at Oswego one night, passing two cars that were coming out of a corner, and I was going into the first place, past the first and second car, and I thought elected to go to the outside because the second one was passing and holding. It didn't look like he was going to pass them that fast, and I was going to pass the two of them. So when I stepped on the gas, the car with magnesium wheels on it was very light. I hit the outside retaining wall, a 5-foot steel wall, 5-inch thick, with this red car, and the magnesium wheels threw a flame in the air about 10, 12 feet. I could see the flame go up, but it broke a 3-inch drive axle between the rear wheels right into, and it came up through, under my seat, through the rear, through the gas tank, which had 55 US gallons of nitromethane